Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching 7th part of What If Naruto and Hinata Were Kidnapped by Raikage. If you enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
The following day, 0008, Temporary Kumo Council Chamber. With a twisted smile on his face, Orochimaru placed his legs on the table and his hands behind his head. It amused him to see the Raikage and his counselors glaring angrily at his blatant disrespect for the Great Cloud Village. When his carryall transport dragon touched down in the village, the Kumo welcome wagon was as large as expected. Of course, the brilliant Sannin had anticipated such a welcome party, and he was well aware that the entire village had been illuminated and mobilized. All of the village searchlights were now focused on his anchor Vanshin, while the fortress searchlights scanned the village. Otogakure and another technologically advanced hidden village created the Dragon, a large dragon-winged flying machine. It could carry at least 20 ninjas and large equipment, but the Neo self-proclaimed Combined Supreme Commander had only brought his elite Sound 4 bodyguards. Being escorted into a wolf's lair by a small bodyguard detail like this would normally be suicidal, but not with an anchor Vanshin hovering above the village and 10,000 strong ninjas aboard to back him up. If Kumo did something stupid like attack him, Jugo and the rest of the 800 berserkers stationed on the fortress would be let loose to annihilate every man, woman, and child in this village. Destruction was unavoidable, and instead of Konoha, the great Kumogakure no Sato would be the first superpower annihilated. It seemed like hours passed as the two parties stared at each other intently without saying anything. Orochimaru decided to break the ice because even the Raikage was unusually quiet. No refreshments for your guests? I should have known you barbarians would be rude to your visitors, Kukuku. The scarred face of the Kumo leader twisted, and his left fist was raised in the air. What do you desire, Orochimaru? As he smashed the table apart, he yelled. The Sound 4 and the Kumo Anbu took combat stances right away. Both parties were taken aback by what they witnessed. Is the Raikage a she-male? Kimimaro and his friends were struck by the Raikage's voice and the nice bouncy boobs he displayed while smashing the poor table. Is that a Kaguya? The Raikage noticed bones protruding from one of the Sound Ninja's body. The snake Sannin held up his hand lazily, motioning for his bodyguards to stand down. Orochimaru was certain that the Cloud leadership would never consider attacking him. The village was in bad shape, and she needed an alliance and a way out of this political and military crisis. It was all the fault of Naruto Namikaze, the son of the man who deposed him as Hokage. When the Kumo leader grunted and signaled his Anbu to stand down, his assessment was confirmed. When the Third Shinobi World War ended, people said peace had finally arrived, and it was extremely boring for Orochimaru until his sensei's tongue slipped regarding the boy's heritage in the aftermath of the Kyuubi's attack. Rearmament quickly followed, and a new entry with a baby photo appeared in every village's bingo book. His former associate Kakuzu frequently peppered him with questions about the boy, demanding to know whether the boy had truly vanished or if it was a leaf ruse to ambush her enemies. It was very amusing to see Taki Missing Nin beg him for information about Naruto Namikaze. However, when Kumo kidnapped the boy and the Hyuga heiress 10 years ago, the world fell silent, and the Neo-Combine effort became difficult. Now that the boy was back, the traitorous Sannin had a great opportunity to begin his revenge on the Leaf Village by using Minado's enemies. The world was once again on the verge of exploding, and it couldn't get any more interesting. The boy's victory over Itachi and Kisame, his other associates, sent shockwaves through many hidden villages. They couldn't ignore the boy's potential threat, which presented a great opportunity to enlist them in Neo-Combine. As a result, the Snake Sannin started with Kumo first. My, Raikage, such a violent outburst just proves my point that you are a barbarian. It's also very unladylike. Orochimaru laughed, while the enraged Cloud leader clenched his teeth at the insult. Dodai placed a hand on the Raikage's shoulder to soothe him. The snake Sanin went on. I informed your secretary that I was aware of what occurred in your village and that I knew who was responsible, Naruto Namikaze. The entire Kumo leadership froze when they heard that name. How did you find out? C inquired, a little nervously. Iwa, people there have been talking about their kidnapped girls who returned home a few days ago, responded the sound leader. It amused him to see every Kumo leader here with a pale face. Kukuku, you should be concerned about this because, shortly after the Chunin exam in Konoha, Leaf and Rock will knock on your door and speak with you. I doubt they will speak in the same manner as I do. The Sanin then stood up and looked out the window. Despite 2 weeks of 24/7 repair efforts, most of the hidden cloud village was still heavily damaged. Exactly as I told your pretty little secretary, Orochimaru said, spreading his arms like a savior. I've come all the way from my flying fortress to offer you an alliance and a way to save your little village, and I've come all the way to this room for your answer. Yes or no? And what benefit do you gain from this? Dodai inquired. His good eye narrowed at the snake, as if he was expecting something in return. First, Kumo can lend me a hand in destroying Konoha. Second, you give me your Hellstorm secret weapon to use against Konoha. The Kumo leader's eyes widened when Hellstorm was mentioned. How did he find out? Dodai was given a slender finger by Orochimaru. And you tell me about the boy's flaws. Didn't you, Dodai III Raikage's right-hand man, train him? Orochimaru was alarmed by Naruto's victory over Itachi Uchiha because the snake Sanin had previously lost to the Uchiha butcher. He needed to know everything about the blonde because he was the #1 threat to his Neo Combine. What do we get in exchange? A Kumo counselor inquired. Orochimaru gave another sinister, contemptuous chuckle. Is survival not enough for you? You are avaricious. Kukuku, so, if Kumo commits Hellstorm and 3/4 of her 20,000 ninjas are 15,000 strong, I'll give you a piece of Konoha when it's destroyed. You will then be able to reclaim your Hyuga heiress as well as the boy's second testicle. Someone has already claimed the boy's head in exchange for his support, and I have first dibs on the boy's first testicle. So, we've made a deal? The Raikage and the other leaders were deep in thought. The deal appears to be too good to be true, but our village is in grave danger. We can't survive on our own. Make your decision quickly, the Sanin said softly. And the clock is ticking. Konoha and Iwa are on their way. A sought advice from his counselors. They all nodded to him, and their eyes conveyed the message. For the time being, we will side with the snake. When Konoha is finished and Kumo is safe, we will activate the snake and take over this combine. The Raikage sighed and rose to his feet. We will, indeed, join the Neo Combine. Excellent. Orochimaru stood up and cheerfully extended his slender hand to the Raikage, who reluctantly shook it. After 30 minutes, the engines on the Anchor Vanshin were up and running. It was ready to travel to its next destination, Flower Country, the home of Kusagakure no Sato. Orochimaru planned to meet up with his Sky Marshal there. Lord Orochimaru, ETA 8 hours, announced the captain on the bridge to his supreme commander. So, I'm going back to my quarters and I'm not going to be disturbed. Please notify me when we arrive. The snake Sanin gave the order. Kimimaro, please inform our Sky Marshal that Kumo has agreed to join the Neo Combine. Hi. Both men were given orders. When the snake returned to his private chamber, he took a saucer cup and filled it with the most expensive sake in the world before taking a sip. He walked up to the windows and took in the views as the fortress rose above the clouds. With the addition of all Kumo and Rogue Iwa elements, the Neo Combine had grown to be twice as powerful as the old Combine. Even Akatsuki couldn't stop him, and Konoha was certainly doomed. There were photos of Sasuke Uchiha, Daisuke Uchiha, and other Uchiha children pinned to a wall in this chamber. With his long tongue, Orochimaru licked his lips. "Your bodies will be mine soon, Kukuku." At the same time, there is Hazuka Castle and Flower Country. Tayuya wasn't the only one in Kusagakure who possessed the Heal Bite ability. Karen Uzumaki stood quietly outside the gates of Hazuka Castle, also known as the infamous Blood Prison, looking down on the ground, unlike her fellow grass genins, who were all chatting happily while waiting for the village's newest allies. It wasn't that she didn't want to talk. She didn't have a friend here, and all of her fellow ninjas treated her as a foreigner and refugee with suspicion. In fact, they took her ability for granted as a form of compensation for staying in their great village. Given the danger of the mission, she was handpicked by Battalion Commander Zosui for this mission. She understood her role. If something went wrong and many soldiers were severely injured, her body, like her late mother, Nori Uzumaki, would be of great service to them. The redhead girl had never met her father. Her loving mother was the only valuable person she had in her life. The mother and daughter had lived in a rundown house, but that was all Karen needed. A decade ago, the bespectacled girl noticed her mother was saving money and inquired about it. The elder Uzumaki smiled and said it was for a trip before telling her about her life in the destroyed whirlpool. Nori was one of the few Uzushio survivors who had become separated from the main refugee group and had become stranded on the eastern mainland. In the end, she had no choice but to settle in Kusagakure, despite the fact that her home village had been destroyed by combined forces. Her reasoning was that the most dangerous place was also the safest. The mother concluded her story by implying that she had discovered the existence of a boy, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Kushina Uzumaki, the Whirlpool Princess. Nori had secretly planned to take her daughter to the Leaf Village for a safer haven, but her plans were thwarted when Naruto vanished 10 years ago. Some claimed he was kidnapped, while others thought it was a trap set by the Leaf Village to ambush Iwa. Nori tragically died as a result of overworking herself to heal many people at once. Karen, then 8 years old, took over her mother's job against her mother's will. The girl had lost count of the bite marks on her body and the number of nights she cried alone in her bed. When Karen returned to the present, she noticed Zosui. The dreadful Jonin was her mother's murderer and a cold-hearted tormentor who treated them both as nothing more than chakra batteries capable of healing any severe wounds while ignoring their cries of pain. But the helpless 13-year-old Uzumaki could do nothing. While Kusa was cruel to her and her mother, the world was even crueler and unforgiving, and she had nowhere else to turn. Her mother had mentioned that the main Uzumaki group might be in the west, but the journey would be too dangerous for a young girl. She wanted to flee to Konoha under the guise of taking the Chunin exam, but Zosui simply refused her request. He claimed that the few Kusa teams dispatched to the exam were merely scouts and distractions, and that there would be no exam in the end. Scouts? Distraction? Is there no exam? What on earth was he on about? What exactly is that? Several genin expressed surprise. Everyone else turned to face the vast ocean of whirlpools. Their eyes widened as they witnessed what they saw. Hundreds of strange golden-winged devices were flying in from the sea, piloted by purple-clad ninjas. They were now circling the castle and the Kusa group like hawks circling prey. The senior grass ninjas watched in awe as the squadrons flew in finger four formations, while their genins, including Karen, froze in terror. Several dragons appeared and descended in front of the people. Before touching down, the transport spattered mud in a 30-meter radius around it. The door was opened, and a dozen ninjas marched out, holding M47 kunai launchers. Karen immediately recognized and was terrified of the insignia on their headbands. It was Sky Country's symbol. No way, isn't it true that Konoha destroyed them in retaliation for the fall of Mum's village? She shivered. A large man with long brown hair emerged from the vehicle. He had two large scars, one that ran from his right neck to his left eye, and the other was a horizontal slash across his throat. The fact that this person was flanked by the other Sky Ninjas indicated that he was their leader. Karen trembled even more as his chakra became more powerful and dark. Kazuo, the main Kusa leader, and his entourage approached the Sky leader and extended their hands. "Hello, Shino. So you're the Sky Marshal that Orochimaru mentioned? But rumor has it that you died 5 years ago. Kumo has marked you off their bingo book. How are you doing?" Shino shook the hand and chuckled darkly. "It would be a sad mistake to mistake me for a corpse. It was all thanks to a reincarnation jutsu that allowed him to avoid death, as well as the subsequent rescue by the rogue Sannin. The constant annoyance of his scars reminded him of a certain blonde boy and his jutsu acquisition team relentlessly hunting him. Shino kept the scars as a reminder of that blonde brat who posed the greatest threat to his world dominance due to his Uzumaki and Senju blood, Jinchuriki status, and potential wielder of the fearsome Hiraishin. That's why he agreed to the Snake Sannin's proposal to form the Neo Combine. The boy had to be killed before he could master the Flying Thunder God technique. Where has Orochimaru gone? Mui, the Blood Prison Warden, inquired while still on the hunt for the Sannin. Shino's mood darkened. He was angry that Orochimaru had gone to offer the Combine membership to the village that had attempted to assassinate the Sky Marshal 5 years before. Even less so when Orochimaru convinced them with his anchor Vanshin. Despite this, Kumo was the only superpower that shared a common goal with the Neo Combine. Even though the Snake Sannin had assured him that they could end the alliance and turn on Kumo later, it still left a bad taste in his mouth. While the Neo Combine was powerful enough with Sound, Sky, Grass, and other minor villages, it would be even more so with the addition of a superpower village. Suna was content with its Konoha alliance, and there was no indication that they intended to betray their ally. Kiri was mired in her own civil war. Iwa would not attack Konoha now, not after the brat had rescued their little girls from the clutches of the Cloud Village, but some in the Hidden Rock Village might disagree. He went to make another ally, the Marshal responded angrily. General Hattori once more? A Kusa counselor guessed correctly. Nah. There is no need. This time, the last Hattori will reconsider. The news of the Yellow Flash's son's return has spread throughout the world, and we've even heard about his victory over Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki in Wave Country. After all, the man who wants that boy's head the most will pledge his juggernauts to the Neo Combine. Shino spoke after nodding in agreement with the Iwa general. The last Hattori and his followers, in fact, have already pledged their support. So, no, Orochimaru does not visit Iwa. The entire Kusa leadership raised an eyebrow. What? And then where? Mui inquired, his voice slightly impatient. The warden clenched his fists. In exchange for his cooperation, the snake had promised him something. He wasn't here any longer. Shino's single word, Kumo, sent a shockwave through the entire Grass leadership. 2 weeks ago, we heard there was a commotion in the Hidden Cloud Village. It was completely shut down. Do you know what exactly happened there? The Kusa leader inquired. They got what they deserved. Shino responded with another dark chuckle. I'll tell you later. Anyway, I received a message from Orochimaru confirming Kumo's willingness to join us. Those Kusa leaders' faces lit up. Then Konoha is definitely doomed. Even the Yellow Flash's son can't save her. I am correct. This alliance will be very beneficial to us. With the power of Neo Combine, we can undoubtedly overthrow the hegemony of the 5 shinobi superpowers, beginning with the Leaf and the Uzumakis who have taken refuge there. The grass leader turned and nodded to Zosui, who immediately snapped his fingers. 2 grass chunins standing next to Karen jumped to action and quickly grabbed her. Please let me go. Fear gripped the Uzumaki. She tried and failed to break free. She tried to bite the ninja on her right, but Zosui only backhanded her. Karen's left cheek developed a large bruise. Mui suddenly appeared in front of Karen and placed his right palm on her chest. The redhead girl immediately felt heat on her torso and dropped to her knees, breathing heavily. My chakra. Her chakra had been severely depleted, she felt. What happened? You're not going to get away from us. Let me demonstrate what will happen if you do. The warden pointed to his castle with his fingers. Did you notice the bound one on the tower? From a distance of at least 500 meters, everyone saw 2 guards holding a trembling prisoner on the top of a castle tower. Fire release. Heavenly prison is the name of the jutsu I performed on you. A self-descriptive name for jail, similar to your clan's caged bird seal. It prevents subjects from escaping the caster without dying, and if the subject is 500 meters away from me, as that man is, nearly. Mui then dashed over to the cliff in the opposite direction, ensuring that he was at least 500 meters away from the prisoner on the tower. The guards quickly left the prisoner, who had knelt. He was sobbing and pleading for mercy. The rain and thunder made it impossible for anyone to hear what the man was saying. To Karen and the other newbies' horror, the begging prisoner burst into flames and was reduced to ashes in less than a minute. That's what happens if you try to flee. The warden issued a stern warning. A brutal demonstration by Mui. A father will go to any length for his child. Shino paused to reflect on the execution before asking, now, where is that Kumo spy? Zosui snapped his finger once more. A badly beaten and bound Moroi appeared in front of the Sky Marshal in an instant. You must thank Kabuto. He discovered this bitch's son spooking around your ultimate weapon. Before turning to his lieutenant and issuing an order, Shino told the Kusa leadership, take him away for interrogation, make him spill every bit of information about Kumo, and then we will use him as a sacrifice. Hi. Mui turned to a shaken Karen after dealing with the Kumo spy. Take this girl away as well, but no harm will come to her. We need her to stay alive. We'll use her against him. He gave a cold order. He would go to any length to fulfill his wish, and nothing would stand in his way. Someone, please. Please. Please assist me. Karen begged softly, tears streaming down her cheeks. She even pleaded with Kami for a miracle, but there was none. No one wanted to help her as everyone stood by and watched as the poor Uzumaki girl was taken to another dragon. The light rain worsened the weather, and the ocean of whirlpools became very violent, with big thunderclaps cracking the sky and gigantic waves crashing violently against the castle cliff. The waves splashed Mui and several other ninjas who were close enough to the cliff. Before speaking again, the Kusa leader dismissed this phenomenon as bad weather. We've given him our most powerful weapon and this Uzumaki girl to take his head. They are our most valuable assets, and we will allow the convicts to join Neo Combine. Kusa has made numerous contributions. I expect to be well compensated. You bet you will, said the Neo Second Combines in command. He began walking towards the blood prison. Now, your ultimate weapon. Bring me to the box so we can make history and nothing in this world can stop us. Hazashi's house on December 28, nearly 13 years ago. Don't you think it's adorable how Lady Hinata and Lord Naruto were holding that red wristband? Hana Hyuga exclaimed. Hinata, the clan princess, was born just yesterday. And this morning, Hana, her husband Hisashi, and Hinata's parents were astounded by what they discovered in Hinata's crib. It appears that they are destined to be together. Hisashi's lovely wife lifted her baby son and kissed him on the cheek. I'm sure our baby Neji will find a lovely girl as well. The older baby appeared to understand what his mother said and smiled. The Hyuga branch house leader nodded and smiled at his family. Then he had a deep thought about Kushina Uzumaki, his secret crush. Even Hana and Hiyashi had no idea about his secret love for the Whirlpool Princess, or his grief when she died in the Kyuubi's attack. He had liked her since the day she walked into his academy classroom and announced loudly that she would one day be Hokage. Boys were warned to avoid the Uzumaki after she famously demonstrated her Spitfire personality by beating up her bullies to a pulp, earning the infamous moniker, the Red Hot-Blooded Habanero. However, her attributes, the fiery red hair, a pair of beautiful violet eyes, and her tomboyish and tough attitude drew his affections, and his personally bearing witness to her upbringing made him fall harder for her. 15 years before the Kyuubi's attack, two top Anbu entered Hisashi and Kushina's classroom and disrupted the class. Kushina Uzumaki, you must report to the Hokage Tower immediately, and we will accompany you there. The entire class was stunned as the Anbu team led the befuddled Uzumaki out to the Hokage Tower. Later that afternoon, as the village was becoming increasingly tense, the class witnessed Konoha dispatching a battalion. The majority of the relief forces wore flak jackets with Senju clan symbols. Hisashi overheard people discussing the event. Whirlpool country is under attack. Hisashi prayed that Kushina's village would be victorious and safe, but 2 days later, Konoha received shocking news. The Senju reinforcement battalion was destroyed. And more disturbing news was delivered. It was all done by a coalition of several ninja villages: Kiri, Kumo, Iwa, Sky, Grass, and other hidden villages. They called themselves the Combine. They numbered over 30,000, and they brought 3 Jinchurikis. Hisashi was shocked a week later when he read the following headlines in the newspaper. Whirlpool has died. The Second World War has begun. He was devastated to learn that Kushina's hometown, Uzushio, had been destroyed along with the Senju reinforcements. He shed a few sympathetic tears for her besieged birth village, as everyone she loved there was now gone. Hisashi was aware that the girl he adored was heartbroken and devastated. He dashed out of his house and over to Kushina's house. The Hyuga desired to embrace the Uzumaki, to comfort and protect her in her hour of need, and to let her know he was there for her. A curse seal trigger happy main house member named Hajime stopped the branch house member with a warning. Never approach the Uzumaki or you will suffer the consequences. Hisashi could only be sent back to his quarters to worry about Kushina. Much to his relief, he later learned from his brother that Hitomi, Makoto, Sume, and other females had been there for Kushina. I hope Kushina gets well soon, Hisashi thought to himself, noting, well, it appears I'm the only boy in her class who cares about her well-being. He had no idea that there was another boy who cared about Kushina and had a crush on her. The time has come, Hisashi. You've got this. Don't give up. You must express your feelings to her. Kushina will undoubtedly return your feelings. Get started. The Hyuga urged himself as he walked towards the Uzumaki manor, his eyes determined and a love letter and a poem in his hands. He secretly left birthday presents on her doorsteps every year, and today the Hyuga planned to confess his feelings to the Uzumaki. They graduated and became genins 2 days ago. The Hyuga had hoped that he and Kushina would be assigned to the same team, but this was not the case. So it was either now or never to confess his feelings to the redhead. He nervously knocked on the door, and to his surprise, it opened. she was supposed to keep it closed. When he entered the house, he discovered signs of a struggle and weapons from a foreign village. The Hyuga quickly realized there was something seriously wrong. He stormed to the Hokage tower right away. When the red-haired girl was confirmed kidnapped, the Hokage immediately dispatched all tracker ninjas at his disposal to search for her. Hizashi volunteered for the search despite knowing the consequences of approaching the Uzumaki, because he had to save her. He activated his Byakugan and began his search, but he didn't notice his best friend, Minato Namikaze, who was looking around for something. Kushina Uzumaki was later saved, much to his relief, but his secret love was saved by his best friend, much to his disappointment and sorrow. Minato has feelings for Kushina as well, Hizashi realized. However, I will not give up. Minato Namikaze is regarded by her as a girly boy. I still have a chance, and please do not give up. Hizashi later secretly and tearfully admitted defeat after accidentally witnessing his best friend and crush kissing on their third date. It broke his heart, and he became envious of the Namikaze, but time heals all wounds, and Hana became his love, and then his wife. Years later, he overcame his jealousy and sincerely wished Minato and Kushina happiness in their secret wedding, just as he wished Naruto and Hinata, as well as his son, to be well and happy. Back to the 28th of December, the day after Hinata's birth. Ding dong, the doorbell rang, and Hana quickly answered it, leaving Neji to Hizashi. Lord Danzo! Exclaimed Hana. She and her husband were taken aback when the most revered Konoha elder paid her a visit. After exchanging greetings, the elder and the Hyuga branch house leader retired to the latter's guest room. Hana placed the tea on the table and politely thanked the elder before leaving the room with Neji. Before the elder sipped his tea and broke the ice, there was silence between the two men. I just congratulated Lord Hiyashi and Lady Hitomi on their healthy child. The Hyuga clan now has an heiress, and I'm confident Hinata Hyuga will lead the clan to greatness. Hizashi gave a nod. Indeed. The Hyuga clan will grow in power as Lady Hitomi has the honor of raising the son of the fourth Hokage, heir to the Whirlpool, Namikaze, and Uzumaki clans, as well as her daughter. Let alone raising and owning a Jinchuriki, Danzo added. Owning a Jinchuriki is a symbol of power and might. Look at the Jinchurikis in Kumo and Iwa. They are inextricably linked to their respective village cages. I am quite certain that the current Suna Jinchuriki is related to the Yondaime Kei's cage. After all, Kushina was one of the main factors behind Minato's selection over Orochimaru for the Yondaime. But I don't understand why Elder Hajime tried to kill Naruto 2 months ago, Hizashi pondered. Fortunately, my brother killed him before he could do any harm to the child. It secretly pleased him that the Hokage gave the rest of the arrogant elders and his main house brother a severe tongue lashing afterwards. It never made sense. Naruto is the clan's ticket to becoming more powerful than the Uchiha clan. So why did Hajime want to kill him? Pondered the Hyuga branch house leader. Danzo sipped his tea calmly again. Would it make sense to you if I told you that the seal on your forehead is actually from the Uzumaki clan? Hizashi's teacup fell to the floor, making a crashing sound as his eyes widened like saucers. What exactly are you saying? I'm saying the caged bird seal originated from the Uzumaki clan and was introduced by Lady Mito for the Senju Pao system in the Warring Era. The Hyuga received the technique when she joined Konoha. Based on Inoichi's findings, the elder feared Lady Hitomi might one day use her best friend's son to destroy the seal along with the Hyuga traditions. Hizashi's mind began to process his memories, particularly his relationship with Kushina. It all made sense now. Despite her royal status, the elders, including his father, forbade the clan from approaching Kushina Uzumaki. They were afraid of her undoing Hyuga traditions, especially after she declared at their Chunin exam finals that she would change the Hyuga clan one day. Is that why the main house family told me and Hana to stay away from Kushina? Hizashi mumbled quietly, his hands on his head. Did they secretly celebrate Kushina's death until my brother returned Naruto? I'm afraid so, Danzo replied, his voice emotionless. Although your brother has made an example of Hajime, I fear this will happen again. Now that the boy's heritage has been revealed to the world, his life is still threatened. And I have reliable intelligence that Iwa and Kumo have begun rebuilding their forces. The elder then pulled a book from his right sleeve, which Hizashi recognized as a bingo book. Check out the first page. The Hyuga opened the book and was astounded by the first page, which contained information about a specific baby. Naruto Namikaze is his name. 2 months old. Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. 0 ninjutsu. 0 genjutsu. 0 taijutsu. Intelligence level 0. 0 stamina. 0 strength. Speed 0. 0 hand seals. Notes: the yellow flash and the red death's son. Do not dismiss the potential that their son possesses. The following section made Hizashi exclaim. The bounty. 500 million dead Ryos and a billion alive. Kami. I've never seen such a sum in my life. The Hyuga flipped to the next page for more information and did some mental math. The next 5 entries don't even add up to match the dead reward. It must be a joke. No, it's not a joke, Danzo replied calmly before taking a sip of his tea. Not if Shingen Hattori finances it with clan funds. Hizashi's eyes widened when he heard the name of Iwa's Hattori clan chief. Shingen Hattori was Mahiru's father, who was assassinated by Minato Namikaze during the Kanabi Bridge mission. The yellow flash wiped out the rest of the Hattori clan in subsequent battles, particularly one in which Minato killed over 1,000 Iwa ninjas in seconds. The Hidden Rock village had observed a day of mourning because no one there was unrelated to or unfamiliar with a person who had died in the battle. The battle also claimed the lives of Sandame Tsuchikage's only child and daughter. Sandame Tsuchikage, who was devastated by the battle's outcome, decided to seek peace. When the majority of the members of the Iwa Council wanted to end the war, the Hattori clan head stormed out. According to a reliable source, Shingen Hattori insisted on the continuation of the war and that Iwa ninjas fight to avenge their fallen comrades. The Konoha elder added some perspective. That 1 billion Ryo reward is for delivering Minato's boy to the Hattori, so he can personally end the Namikaze line, in revenge for Minato ending his Hattori line. There are credible rumors that some interested parties want to make this fortune by assassinating or capturing the son of the Yellow Flash and Red Death. My agents have stopped 2 attempts in the last 3 weeks. Konoha needs to focus more on protecting the boy from Iwa. Hizashi abruptly rose to his feet. I will not allow that to happen. Danzo sat up straighter, a small smile on his face. Neither will I. The Jinchuriki is Konoha's most valuable strategic and tactical asset. We cannot afford to lose the boy. Not to mention, he is likely the last Senju in Uzumaki save Tsunade. I am glad we share a goal. We must ensure the boy's survival. This is why I have come to your place, with a proposition for you. The Hyuga Jonin arched his brow. Proposition? To join me and help me weaponize the boy for the greater good, in exchange for finding an alternative for the caged bird seal. I don't care about the so-called Hyuga traditions as long as the Byakugan is protected. For your benefit, the boy must first become a seal master. To do so, I will allow him access to the Shimura clan library, and I will persuade my friends to give the boy access to the Utatane, Mitokado, and... Hazashi sat patiently as the village elder went on. Then we must ensure that he will eventually be on our side. Someone other than Hiashi and Hitomi in this compound influences him, namely you. When the boy becomes a genin, I will arrange for you to be his Jonin sensei. We must have Minado's boy ready and hardened as soon as possible to fight his parents' enemies. Iwa is rebuilding its power. Their ninja recruitment is soaring, and they have initiated the Juggernaut. After completing his proposal, the root leader stood up. It's late now, and I have to return to my office. I'll give you a few days to consider my proposal, and I'll await your response at my office. Hazashi, with his wife and their son on his arm, watched as the Konoha elder left their house a few minutes later. If Danzo Shimura was correct about the origin of the caged bird seal, his father and the other elders would have a lot to answer for. But he was a member of the branch house, and he had the curse seal on his forehead. What could he do if they were truly responsible? Lady Hitomi is a well-known critic of the caged bird seal, and I hope Lady Hinata will follow in her footsteps. Should I inform her of this? Hazashi reflected. No. The main house will once again do something drastic. I must be extremely cautious and low-key in this endeavor, and Lady Hitomi must be kept in the dark until the time is right. His son, like him and Hana, would be branded in 3 years. The offer from the Konoha elder was very appealing. Later that night, he made a decision. He was willing to make a deal with the devil for his family and fellow branch house members. Hazashi kissed his wife and then their son on the forehead while they were sleeping in bed. Neji, Naruto could be your ticket to freedom. And I'll go to any length for you. Fate was cruel and unjust to Hazashi Hyuga. He was branded and shoved into the branch house seconds after his twin brother was born. I despise this fate, and I despise those main house bastards. There is nothing I can do, and I must live with the caged bird seal, but Lord Danzo has revealed the truth. Hazashi didn't mind having another seal on his tongue or doing dirty work for the Konoha's darkness because it was all for the sake of his family and fellow branch house members. It would be worthwhile if everything went as planned by him and Danzo. 3 years later, he secretly admired Naruto for ruining the ceremony with his pranks, but later that night, the Namikaze Hyuga incident occurred. To the Earth Country border. He yelled, storming out of a Konoha gate, but they couldn't find anything. Hazashi had never felt such despair in his life. The Hyuga main house had triumphed, with the loss of the last Uzumaki in Konoha. His hope for freedom had also been lost. After 2 years since the Namikaze Hyuga incident, Lady Hanabi and his daughter Aoi were born. The branch house girl arrived 9 hours before the main house girl. Both households were overjoyed at the arrival of the 2 baby girls. It was similar to when Hiashi and Hazashi were born, when everyone rejoiced. Kawaii. Lady Hanabi and Aoi look very cute and identical, exclaimed an excited branch house woman. After all, their fathers are identical twins, another branch house woman explained, adding her own thoughts. I wonder how Lady Hanabi will react when she learns her sister has vanished along with the Yellow Flash's son? While everyone else was celebrating the births, the branch house father mumbled ruefully as he held his baby girl in his arms. The girls won't look the same after the seal ceremony. Hazashi became distressed, and tears streamed from his white eyes. I shouldn't have brought you into this world. I'm only condemning you to a life of servitude. If I had been born before Hiashi, Neji and Aoi would have always been free. I'm so sorry. 5 years after the Namikaze Hyuga incident, March 27th. The most dreaded day of Hazashi's life had arrived. The Hyuga clan was celebrating Aoi and Hanabi's 3rd birthdays, especially Hanabi's. The vile seals were inflicted on the little foreheads of all the unmarked branch house children, including Neji and Aoi. They would have to bear them indefinitely until they died. Hazashi pondered an old saying as he examined the seals on his children's innocent foreheads. They say that people don't really know themselves until their freedom is taken away. Does my brother know himself as well as I do? Will Lady Hanabi understand herself as well as Aoi? With the threats posed by the other superpower villages and the loss of the Konoha Kyuubi Jinchuriki, the village required more soldiers. Danzo, Hazashi, and other senior root officers stood by as the current batch of over 200 trainees went through their arduous training regimen. When this batch completes their ritual, we will number over 500, but this base cannot accommodate any more. Hazashi, you are in charge of establishing 2 additional bases, Beta and Charlie. The Hyuga bent to one knee. Hi. Hazashi began his journey home after leaving the root headquarters. He was eager to teach Neji and Aoi more clan taijutsu. They had both shown great promise on Juken, but the father admitted that the children would never be given the opportunity to reach their full potential. Hazashi heard a feminine scream that sounded very similar to him. His head shot up as he dashed towards the source. When he arrived, he saw 2 elders and a large number of clansmen and clanswomen bearing witness to a small girl on the ground clutching her head and crying loudly. Other branch house children were terrified and crying as they watched the scene. Please stop, I beg you. Please. Pleaded an older boy on his knees, attempting to console the young girl. The boy was also crying. Aoi and Neji were their names. During a game of hide and seek, his little girl had unintentionally run into 2 elders. The elders punished Aoi by activating her seal without hesitation. When he noticed the elders' smug expressions, he turned around to see his children and the other branch house children's crying faces. Hazashi sobbed quietly and helplessly. If the Namikaze Hyuga incident had not occurred, Lady Hitomi would have reprimanded the casters for this child abuse, and Naruto would have secretly pranked the elders in retaliation. But she became disheartened after Lady Hinata and Naruto vanished. When Hazashi saw the superior looks on the elders' faces as they activated Aoi's seal, rage and hopelessness boiled in his mind, and the father made another decision. I have to do something for my children's future. Here they are. Exclaimed Hazashi as he discovered dozens of Namikaze and Uzumaki scrolls well hidden beneath Naruto's unused baby crib. The crib is the same model Neji used. It appears Kushina took my advice, he noted before pulling out his storage scroll, a birthday gift from Minato. Torun, Fu, sit rep? I need 2 minutes. A voice came through his radio earplug. My bugs have begun to short-circuit all of the house's electricals. I have covered all areas with gasoline, and the lookout team confirms that another Anbu team will patrol here in 15 minutes, Fu replied. Great, we can get the fires started in 3 minutes. The scrolls of the Yellow Flash and the Red Death were desperately needed by the village. While Root and the Toad Sanin's intelligence networks were unable to locate the children, they discovered 2 Iwa Jinchurikis had been activated. Is it for war? Root's best spies, the Wandering Nun and her son, had been killed. In response, the 3rd Hokage launched Crimson Contingency, which included the Firewall and the AK-16. And Root would keep Leaf safe in the shadows. A stronger Root is required to support the tree, Hazashi explained to Danzo. The Root leader was overjoyed to hear this and quickly approved his plan. This mission was also personal to Hazashi. His elders had taken to giving Lady Hanabi personal training. The desperate branch house leader hoped that one of the scrolls held information on the caged bird seal. The 4th Hokage had installed protection seals in his estate, limiting access to his and Kushina's friends. When Minato told him he trusted him, The Hyuga felt honored, but now he felt low about betraying his dead best friend's trust. All done. Start the fires now. Hazashi was disgusted with himself after giving this order and stealing his friend's scrolls. The root agents gathered at a safe distance 30 minutes later. Hazashi's Byakugan watched as the raging fire consumed the house and destroyed all evidence of the scroll theft. Many ninjas, including Kakashi Hatake, attempted but failed to extinguish the fire. His Byakugan noticed that a lovely portrait of Minato and Kushina smiling together was also on fire. Please forgive me, Minato, Kushina. Blood seals guarded the scrolls of the Namikaze and Uzumaki clans. Fortunately, each ninja was required to provide their own small blood sample for identification. The blood vials were kept in secure hospital storage rooms, but Root was able to retrieve a few vials because Root had people on hand. When dozens of unlocked scrolls were placed on the table a week later, a smile crept up the Root leader's wrinkled lips. All of Minato's and Kushina's ninjutsu and other secrets were revealed. Danzo read a Namikaze scroll with a tri-pronged kunai symbol on it. He smiled a little more. Hazashi, Fu, Torun, they say. The three ninjas fell to their knees immediately. Hazashi received the scroll from the elder. Make 3 copies of this, one for each of you, but you can only study and train in this facility, understand? Hello. The 3 men lowered their heads in response to the command. You 3 are my top ninjas, and you will form my Hiraishin squad. After 9 years of the Kyuubi attack, 6 years after the Namikaze Hyuga incident. Lord Danzo, you might want to look at these, Hazashi suggested as he handed several photos to the elder, who was enjoying a rare leisurely tea time. The photographs depicted a 9-year-old tan-skinned girl with teal hair and orange eyes. What is this girl about? Inquired the Root leader. He re-examined the photographs while sipping his tea. The elder only remembered that this civilian girl had started at the academy a few months before, and that she was in a class with scions of the Uchiha, Aburame, Inuzuka, Yamanaka, Akamichi, and Nara clans, as well as the niece of the Haruno counselor. It wasn't anything significant. She piqued my interest when she wanted to befriend my son, and I've discovered something interesting with my Byakugan. She, like Kushina and Naruto, has 2 sources of chakra. In other words, I believe we have a new Jinchuriki in the village. Danzo almost suffocated on his tea. Hazashi put in a lot of effort and time to secure his Hyuga home study room with privacy seals, but he was granted permission by the elder to bring the Uzumaki scrolls back to his house as a reward for his contributions to the village en route. Finally, he exclaimed quietly. Hazashi began to read Kushina's scrolls non-stop during his rest periods, similar to how Kakashi would bring newly published Icha volumes home to binge read at night. The caged bird seal is actually made up of 2 seals, leash and leech. The first, as the name implies, is the curse seal that keeps prisoners in line with threats of pain and death. Reading it to himself left a bad taste in the Hyuga branch house leader's mouth before he looked into the details of the next seal. The next one, leech, is used to seal off a foe's bloodline limit, but it also has a fail-safe use, to seal your own bloodline limit and DNA to safeguard secrets. That must be it. Hazashi exclaimed rashly. If the Uzumaki clan can use these fuinjutsu, they must also know how to remove them. Hazashi and his fellow Hyuga clan members watched as Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze used caged bird seals, the aforementioned leech fuinjutsu, on 2 despicable elders who bullied Aoi a year later, after the son of the Yellow Flash and the Hyuga princess returned from Kumo. You, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, are the only one who can save my children. Fire News Network Studio, 56 hours before the Konoha Chunin exam finals, Fire Capital. As his throat was slit, the news chief editor died on the floor. Fu Yamanaka sheathed his tipless tanto quickly and without emotion. Hisashi Hyuga and Torun Aburame shunshined in front of them as Danzo Shimura softly tapped his cane. All of the guards have been neutralized, Torun Aburame reported calmly. Hisashi provided Danzo with his report. All Hellfire seals are on this floor, Hisashi said quietly. The root leader tapped his cane once more, signaling the Hiraishin squad to proceed to the basement. It was now 0100, and the only people present were the 4 root ninjas. They arrived at the evidence storage room in the basement in less than 2 minutes. Root agents stationed in Fire Capital had provided the team with the blueprint for this building, so Hisashi's Byakugan was not required to locate it. Nonetheless, the root leader needed to bring the Hyuga along with the rest of the Hiraishin squad in case suspicions were raised. The Leaf delivery team brought Kumo evidence files to this news studio yesterday. Naruto Namikaze had told the Konoha leadership that he wished to defeat Kumo without bloodshed and force them to release the slaves who remained trapped there. Tomorrow, the news series will be broadcast around the world. However, the Konoha's darkness would not allow this scandal to come to light. Not when this opportunity could be used to benefit the Hidden Leaf village. Not with the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and his Uzumaki clan's women ready to flee Konoha for Neo Uzushio if the Cloud Village surrendered too soon. Not when Konoha could take the Kyuubi and the Uzumaki clan and make them stronger. After all, Konoha owned the Kyuubi, the Uzumaki clan, and the Uzushio's secrets. The media blitz must be stopped, or at least postponed, to allow time for Kumo to fire the first shot, at which point Konoha will be provoked enough to go to war. After breaking the room locks, Fu and Torun took all the files, including those pertaining to Kumo, and Hisashi began to place Neji's and size K-15 Uzumaki Hellfire seals. The room was cold and dimly lit, much like Danzo's locked archive room, where he kept dirt on a variety of people, including several prominent Fire Court members. Lord Danzo, Fu announced, passing him a scroll. This storage scroll contains all Kumo files. As he took it, the Warhawk nodded. Kumo's dirty secrets would come in handy much later. The files had been seized, and it was almost time to leave. Danzo started his next order coldly. Torun, move on to the next section. Hello. The Aburame sat down on the floor and opened his scroll. 3 young Kumo genins appeared, all dead and fully equipped. The bodies would be used to cover up the true perpetrators, giving the impression that the Hidden Cloud Village murdered the news staff and stole the files while suffering casualties. Hisashi couldn't hide his shock and sadness as he carried a body to a building corner. They were as young as Neji when they were captured, tortured, and eventually executed. When the elder sensed hesitation in the Hyuga, he approached him quickly and quietly. Did they make you think of your son, Mr. Hisashi? Yes, the Hyuga nodded, knowing his master was not pleased. Root was a place where emotion and guilt were non-existent. He was certain he would be punished, but the elder's next words surprised him, as the darkness looked casually at the dead bodies. It's a tragedy, but we'll do whatever it takes to give Konoha and our children a better tomorrow. Make no mistake. War is coming, with all of its glory and all of its horror. Our responsibilities are too great to do anything less. The war with Kumo will benefit Konoha, and even you. Hisashi turned to face the village elder, concerned. You said Naruto made a deal with my elders. Lady Hinata will not be marked by the caged bird seal as long as he doesn't interfere with Hyuga internal affairs, and he will leave for Uzushio with Lady Hinata and his clan's women when Kumo is neutralized. Is Naruto really going to abandon the branch house families? Danzo's face remained solemn. I'm afraid so, and if the boy discovers you are responsible for the arson on his parents' house, the scroll theft, revealing the Nanabi girl's identity, and her subsequent predicament, he will refuse to help you, and he may even personally maim you. Hisashi flushed. Impossible. I am his future uncle in best law's friend and his father's best friend. He will not do that to me. He doesn't care, and he's no longer the innocent boy we knew. Look at the boy's long list of brutal and unmerciful acts. Kumo, Wave, those civilian counselors, and your elders. He knows where to hurt the most. The Hyuga gulped as they remembered what happened to the ex-counselors and Hyuga elders who had wronged the Namikaze and were brutally maimed. Even Ibiki Morino was disturbed by the acts and worried about what would happen to his brother if Naruto arrested him. If your transgressions are discovered, your family will be condemned forever. Your children and their children will never be free. The Konoha's darkness seemed to know the Hyuga branch house leader's thoughts and asked a question that struck a deep chord in his soul. Say, Mr. Hazashi, how much would you pay to free your children from their seals? Everything, the Hyuga father replied unequivocally. Everything. I know freedom has a cost, and I'm willing to pay whatever it takes for my children's freedom. Good, Danzo said with a satisfied nod. If you help me get what I want, I will use my Hokage power to help you achieve your goal in return. We must act quickly. The Konoha's darkness then said something magical that widened the Hyuga Jonin's eyes before leaving to continue his task with steely determination. Danzo cracked a smile. Hazashi believed that only his benefactor, Koto Amatsukami, could convince Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze to help him achieve his goal. The route team then set off the security alarms. The city cops would soon arrive and discover the Kumo bodies, leading everyone to believe the ninja had murdered everyone inside the studio and stolen their files. Danzo firmly tapped his cane. We're finished here. Let's go. His three agents formed a circle around their master without saying anything. They all extended their thumbs, index, and middle fingers to touch. The four of them then vanished without a trace, and the Fire News Network building began to burn. 0900. 8 hours later, 48 hours before the Konoha Chunin exam finals. Only a few Leaf Ninjas were aware of the existence of this special arena and its purpose. It was used for Jonin exams. It was located behind the Hokage Monument and was ideal for examining and promoting a Konoha ninja to full Jonin rank. Given how a Jonin prospect fought their proctor and the resulting damage, the arena was even larger than 3 soccer fields combined. In comparison to the Chunin exam finals arena, which was 2 days away and would have had tens of thousands of seats for an audience, there were only a few hundred seats, reserved only for ninjas with special Jonin rank or higher. Unlike the Chunin exams, which were nothing more than publicity for hidden villages, the Jonin exams were held in secret. Only fellow special Jonins, full Jonins, and the Konoha leadership could observe and assess prospects' abilities and skills. Jonins were the military backbone of a hidden village, and their knowledge, experiences, and abilities had to be kept secret. Hinata, Fu, Sasuke, and the rest of the K-15 platoon, as well as their parents, had arrived and taken their seats in the arena. The Leaf Raiders were given an exception because it was their commander who was taking the exam, and they had taken an oath not to reveal this secret ground or Naruto's combat information. When it came to the K-15, everyone was curious about Naruto's magical effect on the platoon. In 7 weeks, each of them had clearly grown stronger, and they had all passed the Chunin exam's second stage. Half of them had qualified for the finals, along with the Suna team. Many ninjas were so inspired that they wished to join the Leaf Raiders. Naruto Namikaze entered the field and noticed that his proctor had not yet arrived. He knelt down and began doing some relaxing push-ups with his right middle finger. He was doing it, coincidentally or not, while facing Danzo. Everyone in the room was taken aback by the scene. 7, 8, and 9. Is Naruto okay? Fu inquired, concerned. The K-15 turned to face their commander, who was still performing push-ups. Hinata shook her head. remembering how many of her father's house windows had been shattered by a roar. No, he isn't. The arson in Fire Capital enrages him. All the evidence files have been confirmed lost, and the news crew was murdered. I have never seen Naruto so angry and despairing. I'm so sorry. The Nanabi Jinchuriki apologized before asking another question. Is that why he wants to take the exam right away? We have no choice but to resort to military action, a familiar feminine voice added to the conversation. Everyone turned around to see Tayuya and Neji enter. Good morning, Tayuya, brother Neji, Hinata said, smiling as she noticed her cousin and Naruto's cousin together and remarked, they look like a couple. Hello, Lady Hinata, Neji replied, and Tayuya replied, Hi, Hinata, as the two of them took their seats next to each other. The gentle fist genius had finally asked the fiery Uzumaki girl out for a not-a-date lunch date, thanks to his father's encouragement. Tayuya motioned for Hinoka and Aoba to join him. It's not just to get a higher rank in the war. He's also trying to blow off some steam. Naruto stood up from his warm-up as soon as he noticed Neji and Aoba's presence. When he noticed the two sitting next to his Uzumaki clan's women, he unsheathed his Arashi katana from his back and pointed it at them. The gentle fist mastermind and the intelligence officer both paled, gulped, and sweated profusely. What did Naruto do to you two? Sasuke wondered, reflecting on what everyone was thinking. The Uzumaki clan, according to his mother, were not like the Uchiha and Hyuga clans, where you had to ask clan heads for permission to date their clansmen, clanswomen. Neji's face had turned as white as his eyes. Why you don't want to know, you Uchiha? Trust me, you don't want to know, why you'll lose sleep, Aoba stuttered. Hinoka and Tayuya both demanded, what the hell happened? What did Naruto do to them? Oh, please stop. The terrified two begged at the same time. Everyone noticed the two young men putting their trembling hands over their crotches. Nobody knew the blonde had secretly visited the two young men in their homes before the dates. Remember, no disrespect to Hinoka, Tayuya. If you make her cry, I will personally teach you the meaning of, what is chopped off may never rise. There was a smoke explosion 50 meters in front of Naruto. Waiting for the smoke to clear, the blonde special Jonin narrowed his eyes. Finally, he noticed the outline of a tall man with long white hair. Kakashi got lost on the road of life, so I'll be the proctor of your exam. The smoke dissipated in 5 seconds. Jiraiya, one of the legendary Sannin, was the tall man in question. It must be the Toad Portal. Tsunade and Hiruzen both speculated on Jiraiya's quick return to the village. The Toad Sannin then shed his solemn demeanor. But first and foremost, Naruto. He held out his arms, eager to hug his godson, finally seeing him alive and well, and that he had matured into a man. Hiashi had been chasing Naruto with a sword, and the Toad Sage had correctly guessed the reason. The super pervert was overjoyed and wanted to congratulate his godson. To everyone's surprise, Naruto activated his wind armor dual mode and charged at him. The blonde moved so quickly that the Sannin barely avoided his katana slash attack, and a few strands of his hair floated in the air. What the hell? No reunion hugging? Jiraiya exclaimed, perplexed. Many Jonins and special Jonins cheered, the son of the Yellow Flash versus the sensei of the Yellow Flash. A betting pool was quickly formed, and Tsunade was eager to contribute her monthly salary to it. Danzo was overjoyed. This fight is better than one with Kakashi. He felt the prototype Uzumaki pre-stored chakra seal battery had been depleted when he touched the scroll hidden in his pocket. Well, once the fight is over, I'll recharge the seal. The Konoha's darkness allowed a smile to form on his lips as his Mangekyo Sharingan spun wildly behind his bandage once more. It might work with the Jinchuriki. Show me the full power of a flawless Jinchuriki. You defeated Itachi Uchiha with your power. Hisashi was sitting in a corner, concerned. He had looked beneath the surface and discovered why Naruto gave Danzo the finger. And he has reduced the number of suspects to a single digit, but my name remains on the list. It's only a matter of time before Naruto suspects me. But it will be too late for him, and I can still get what I want. The magical words of Konoha's darkness in the news studio rang in his mind, assuring him that it was all worthwhile. Your children's freedom awaits, Mr. Hisashi. Cell Block A01, Anchor Vanshin, 0830, September 1st, 30 minutes ago. Karen Uzumaki savored a rice cracker while lying on her belly on a tatami and reading a magazine inside her cell aboard the Anchor Vanshin, the Neo-Flying Combine's fortress and headquarters. She'd been imprisoned on the Flying Fortress for over 7 weeks, and her time there had been strange. While the Neo-Combine ninjas herded hundreds of prisoners to common cells on the fortress, the young Uzumaki girl was taken to a special cell by the Supreme Commander, Orochimaru. The redhead girl's cell was almost as nice as a 5-star hotel room, much to her surprise and relief. It was spacious, with large clean tatamis on the floor and a table and chair. She had many advantages, including fine meals, clean clothes, use of a shower, a heater, and even a television. All of this made her feel less like a prisoner. It was now 0830, and she turned on her TV to watch her favorite morning show. To her dismay, the channel showed a breaking news story rather than the show. There was footage of a large building being consumed by black fires. The Uzumaki girl kept clicking the TV remote to get away from the scene, but every channel was showing the same major news. This is Katsuto Ikamoto, reporting live from the border between Fire Country and Frost Country. Several hours ago, there was an attack on the FNN headquarters in Fire Capital, which resulted in scores of deaths, including many of my colleagues. The reporter's grief was palpable in his tone. The Fire Capital Law Enforcement Department announced that it suspected the Hidden Cloud Village was responsible for this act, citing concrete evidence in its possession. A reliable anonymous source adds that the Ninja Village did this to cover up a heinous scandal that could bring catastrophic political disaster to the Lightning leadership. Kumogakure no Sato and Lightning Country have denied responsibility for the attack and dismissed the idea of a scandal. The action has now moved outside of the Fire Palace. Half an hour ago, the Fire Daimyo concluded a joint video conference with the Earth Daimyo, as well as their respective courts. Representing the Fire Daimyo in the Fire Court, Fire Crown Prince Masashi Madako declared the attack on the FNN an act of war and declared that he will do everything necessary to protect his country, before announcing that the Fire military forces, as well as their special forces ninjas have been mobilized. As the point of view returned to this Ikamoto reporter, Karen raised her red eyebrows at the mention of ninja. The station showed a video of a large group of armored warriors wearing fire emblems marching towards a destination over his shoulder. Behind me is the Fire 141st Samurai Regiment marching towards the northern border, and the Frost and Hot Water Daimyos have already issued an evacuation order for their citizens to avoid conflicts between fire, earth, and lightning. This is the biggest crisis since the fall of Whirlpool, which caused Ninja World War II. Will there be a way to solve this crisis? She didn't want to hear any more of this, so the bespectacled girl turned off her television. War is coming. Karen mumbled, clutching her chest as the reporter mentioned the fall of Whirlpool, her mother's country. The reporter's words hurt her because they reminded her of her deceased mother and her destroyed Uzushio home village, as well as her captors, the Neo-Combine. Does this have anything to do with the Neo-Combine? She wondered quietly, wondering if war would actually occur. She remembered her mother Nori's story about the fall of Uzushio. As the Combine began to breach the final defenses, the Uzumaki clan head Lord Kenshin Uzumaki, Lady Kushina's father, issued an emergency evacuation order, forcing my family to leave everything behind, including my favorite mermaid dolls. It was totally chaotic. The buildings were either burning or collapsing. We were separated from Auntie Fuso's family, and I didn't get to see that shy cute little boy Nagato again. Fortunately, an Uzumaki ninja, I don't know who he was, furiously killed the entire Kumo team and personally took me to an evacuation boat before he left to fight the other invaders, but the ordeal didn't end there. My boat was strafed and bombed by the Sky Country ninjas with those powerful Iwa clay bombs, and I was the only survivor because I bit myself to induce healing. The boat engine was destroyed. After recalling her mother's story, the young Uzumaki girl closed her eyes in thought. She detested wars. The fall of Uzushio had left her mother a solitary, homeless orphan and refugee, stranded in the remote grass village and always at their mercy. Innocent people have always suffered the most from wars. Families torn apart, homelessness, starvation, disease, rape, and death were all common occurrences. She turned around and looked out her cell window. Despite the fact that the flying fortress was in the clouds, she could still see squadrons of buzzards, the term for the golden-winged devices piloted by sky ninjas, patrolling around it. More dragons have been arriving and departing the Anchor Vanshan recently than usual. The Neo Combine appeared to be preparing for something. War was the only word that came to mind for Karen, and she bit her lower lip. The Uzumaki surveyed her cell's plentiful food, clothing, and lodging. With all this nice treatment, the Neo Combine must want something in return. What do they want from me? Karen Uzumaki wondered fearfully. The redhead girl felt isolated and vulnerable. I feel like a fattened lamb before slaughter. Karen mumbled quietly and went to sit in a corner, huddled to herself, before quietly sobbing. I wish you were still here, Mum. Anchor Vanshan War Briefing Amphitheater, 0855. The flying fortress was several thousand meters above the destroyed Uzushio no Sato, the Neo Combine Foss's secret rallying point. Shino smiled as he saw the panicked faces of the Kumo leadership, including the scarred-faced Raikage, realizing how far they had fallen after hearing the breaking news. The Hidden Cloud Village had previously hunted and killed him, and it irritated him that Orochimaru had offered this superpower village membership in the Neo Combine. He had strongly opposed this idea to the Snake Sanin, knowing that the Kumo leaders were a bunch of greedy, power-hungry, self-absorbed jerks. However, the Supreme Commander of the Neo Combine dismissed his protest, arguing that a superpower ninja village would strengthen the army. Sound and Sky each contributed 10,000 powerful ninjas. Grass brought 6,000, but this included 2,000 inmates released from the blood prison. Rain supplied the Combine with 4,000 ninjas after its leader, Hanzo the Salamander, agreed to join in. The last Hattori commanded hundreds of juggernauts and had used his vast wealth to recruit over 10,000 street thugs, ronins, and missing nins who served as the Combine's meat shields. The army had grown to 60,000 men with the addition of Kumo. Orochimaru, seated at the conference table's Supreme Commander seat, paid little attention to the Sky Marshal's smile or the Kumo leadership's panicked expression. He was more concerned with the news. First and foremost, he would bet everything that Kumo was not responsible for the FNN attack. What kind of moron would leave a mountain of evidence at a murder scene? Second, he knew this Ikamoto FNN reporter from his time en route, and this newsman had been on Route's payroll spreading pro-Konoha propaganda. The Snake Sanin had a strong suspicion that his former Route employer was involved. That paralyzed elderly man could be the anonymous source mentioned in the news. If Danzo Shimura was truly to blame, it was understandable that he and his Fire Court allies, including the Fire Crown Prince, desired war for profit. Well, this attack on FNN has made it easier for me to deal with Kumo, Orochimaru said, smiling as he turned to face the Raikage and his entourage. Kukakuku, I hope you enjoy the TV show. Now it means you have to win the war against Konoha, doesn't it, Raikage? Every sound commander understood what clearing the prison cells meant, and they all paled and trembled. Mass sacrifices for Edo Tensei, an advance payment for Manda and his snake goons to bolster the combine's ranks, Shino thought casually, and wasted no sympathy on those human sacrifices, because victory demanded great sacrifices. No! Exclaimed the Raikage right away. We have already placed Hellstorm on Turtle Island, and it is now en route to the Fire Country's eastern coast. Operation Crushing Leaf is less than 48 hours away, so we don't have time to relocate the cannons and charger equipment to your palace, so thank you for your offer, Orochimaru. Fair enough, Orochimaru said, shrugging. He expected Kumo and the other villages to be unwilling to share their military secrets. But it didn't matter to him as long as Konoha was destroyed and he got what he desired, the Uchiha children. But you'll still send 15,000 ninjas, right? The Iwa Gravemaker promises to use his influence to thwart Iwa's aggression against your village. Yes, that number. And I hope Shingen Hattori can keep his promise to end Iwa's hostility towards Kumo and you, Orochimaru. Exclaimed as he pointed to the snake Sanin. Ouch, Orochimaru said, putting his hands on his chest and pretending to be hurt. Didn't I prove that by healing your soldiers, assisting in the reconstruction of your small village, and remasculinizing you? Actually, I found your feminine appearance appealing. Kukuku. The Sky Marshal laughed, and there were snickers throughout the chamber. Orochimaru ignored the Raikage's menacing stare. Not to mention my meditating peace between you and the Iwa Gravemaker? In case you didn't know, the Hattori was very angry at first that you took Minato's boy, but if you help him take the boy's head, he will forgive you all. He swears this on his dead son. He and I always keep our ends of a bargain, and shouldn't you too, eh? Grudgingly agreed that 15,000 Cloud Ninjas would join the fight against Leaf. He and the rest of the Kumo leadership were still skeptical of the alliance, but they didn't have much of a choice. A few weeks ago, several Kumo ninjas disguised as lightning diplomats or merchants were murdered and mutilated in Earth Capital, and the Hidden Rock Village was apparently responsible. Because the Cloud Ninja Village couldn't face two superpower ninja villages at the same time, an alliance with the Neo Combine was their only option. On the other hand, they may reap significant benefits from this alliance in secret. When the war against Konoha was over and Kumo had gotten what they wanted, they would sneak back to the village with some M47 Kanai launchers and a few Dragon Carryall transports and get Professor E to work on reverse engineering them. Returning to his role as Supreme Commander, Orochimaru clapped his hands, attracting the attention of everyone in the amphitheater. Anyway, time is of the essence, so ladies and gentlemen, shall we begin? Every commander in the Combine seated above him nodded quietly. The snake Sanin smiled and rolled a scroll out onto the table. When he casually touched the scroll, a Konoha landscape model appeared, complete with the wall and the monument. There were 9 small flags with the kanji numbers, 1, 2, 9, evenly placed throughout the Konoha landscape. The numeric flags were arranged in the following order: 1 to 3 in the front, 4 to 6 in the middle, and 7 to 9 in the back. Konohagakure no Sato is divided into 9 zones, Orochimaru explained as a snake slid out of his right sleeve and served as the Sanin's pointing stick. With its forked tongue extended, the snake pointed to the front section of the Leaf Village model. The front section of the village is zones 1, 2, and 3, as well as the Konoha walls, which are heavily fortified with over 300 heavy artillery pieces and the firewall defense seal array. Despite the fact that the exam begins at 0900, my spies have yet to confirm the firewall shutdown time for the welcome ceremony fireworks. Now, Raikage? Those pathetic Konoha wall will be blown apart by the Hellstorm Chakra diffusion cannons. Ta declared confidently. At that point, we can launch the invasion. I'm confident it will, a stern voice said through a monitor. Nothing can stand up to Hellstorm's might, but keep in mind that it will take 129 minutes to recharge Hellstorm, in case we need to fire again, Professor E reminded the Supreme Commander, much to the Raikage's chagrin. "Thank you for the information, Professor." "The wall will be destroyed regardless," Orochimaru agreed, and everyone in the room nodded. His snake then tongued the middle section of the model. The central region is zones 4 through 6, but zone 5 is the most important because it contains the Chunin exam arena, Shino. "My Skyforce will take out as many high-ranking people as possible in order to cut off the head of the SNA." "Ah, whatever," said the Sky Marshal, while Orochimaru simply shrugged it off. "Many of Naruto's genins will take the final exams. We will drop and unleash the Boxer, assuming he survives the first assault by the Sky Forces. I'm sure he will." Now the back section, zones 7 to 9. 8 is the administration area, that's where the Hokage Tower is. "Are you sure your Sky Forces will take it out as well, Shino?" Orochimaru asked, and the Sky Marshal nodded curtly. "But you're only interested in Zone 9, aren't you?" the Supreme Commander asked, turning to face A. "Because that's where the Hyuga compound is. So Konoha right section, zones 3, 6, and 9 are yours to deal with, alright?" The Raikage and the Kumo counselors nodded in agreement. "My sound forces will take the left section, zones 1, 4, and 7, Orochimaru continued. It took a second for A's eyes to widen slightly. "Now I understand. Except for the Uchiha compound in Zone 4, there is nothing important to take in the left section. His prize is the Uchihas. Now the middle section, Zones 2, 5, and 8, Orochimaru said, turning to face the commanders from Sky, Grass, Rock, Stone, Rain, the Prajna group from Wood Country, and other ninja villages. They are all yours to take. Shingen will command the central forces, and we will unite at Zone 8 to put the final nail in Konoha's coffin." They all nodded, including Shino, Shingen, and Hanzo's representatives, as well as Kusa leader Kazuo. This part of Konoha was wealthy, and there was plenty to pillage and plunder. Orochimaru grinned and clapped his hands as everyone agreed on his plan. "The meeting is now adjourned. You are all dismissed. Go prepare your units for the war we will win, Kimimaro and Amaru," said Sound Shinobi, who stood at attention. "Amaru, it's time for that Uzumaki girl to play her part. Take her to the studio. Kimimaro, you notify Generals Hattori and Dodai that Operation First Strike has been approved. Begin at 0915. Hi." The two exclaimed as they bowed deeply to their Supreme Commander. Konoha Jonin Arena, 0909, less than 48 hours before the Chunin exam final. When Naruto caught Jiraiya's punch with little effort, the third Hokage's jaw dropped slightly in surprise. His former 3 students, the Sannin, were among the world's most powerful ninjas. Tsunade, his second successor, had the most powerful punch in the village, if not the entire ninja world, and her teammates weren't far behind. Naruto had attacked his Jonin exam proctor, opponent, Jiraiya, his godfather and the strongest Konoha ninja, without warning 2 minutes before. The Namikaze then launched a barrage of sword attacks on the Toad Sage, denying him the opportunity to perform his ridiculous kabuki self-introduction. The boy was solemn and had not said anything. Worse, he reeked of murderous intent. Jiraiya became serious and pulled a kunai from his sleeve to block Naruto's wind-coated katana strike. A spark was created between the two colliding weapons, followed by a loud clang, and the kunai was severely dented. The Toad Sannin replaced his damaged kunai with a new one. Naruto and Jiraiya traded weapon attacks for a minute, but they both dodged or blocked each other's attacks. In this minute, neither team scored a direct hit. Jiraiya appears to be on the defensive, but he won't stay this way, Hiruzen and Tsunade predicted in their minds. Ha! The Namikaze launched a katana stab directly into the Sannin's groin, much to the horror of Neji and Aoba. Toad Sannin slammed a blue chakra ball into his opponent's katana with his left hand. The force was so strong that it knocked Naruto's sword out of his hands. The Arashi flew back 100 meters. Rasengan. Naruto was taken aback by his father's technique. The mangled-tailed beast ball. The blonde then saw a fist flying towards his face, but he caught it with his right hand in time and was only pushed 2 centimeters behind. What? Jiraiya exclaimed, as did everyone else, including Tsunade and Kakashi. Few people in the world could easily withstand, let alone intercept, a Sannin's powerful punch. Strong, yes, but slower than the Raikage, Naruto said with a sly grin. What happened to you, Jiraiya? Was it Icha who got you pushing too many pencils? Jiraiya could feel Naruto's grip on his fist tightening and the blonde's nails digging deeper into his hand. The Sannin was taken aback when he noticed the nails transforming into claws. Blood slowly oozed from his hand. Claw creation technique, a jutsu he learned from his former teacher Yugito Ni, was used by the Jinchuriki. The blonde's right hand had firmly gripped his godfather's left hand, and he yanked it away from him. What the hell? Jiraiya wondered as he was yanked violently away from his godson. His male instinct urged him to look downward, which he did. To the horror of the super pervert, Naruto's left hand with 15 centimeters long claws was approaching his crotch. Oh my kami. A terrified Jiraiya jumped away from his would-be castrator, ignoring the tearing pain in his left hand. Surprisingly, Naruto did not pursue. Fighting Rule 101 for kunoichi fighting against male ninja, Tayuya said evilly, as everyone in the room listened. Aim for their balls, and you'll have the upper hand. If you grab them by the nuts, they'll always surrender. Anko Mitarashi and the other outgoing kunoichis burst out laughing, while the other senior kunoichis giggled and nodded, including Kurenai, who sighed and nodded reluctantly. Hinata and Hinoka blushed in embarrassment, while Sakura and Yakumo, the junior kunoichis, blushed profusely. All of the male ninjas paled and clutched their family jewels. The kunoichis laughed even harder as a result. I'm tired of this, Jonin or Special Jonin, whatever. Let's get this over with quickly, Naruto said. He took a deep breath while his arms formed an X in front of his chest. He exclaimed in a demonic tone, "Ha!" and spread his arms outward. Grass and dust were blown away within a 10-meter radius of the Jinchuriki. The Jinchuriki's body was covered in a golden chakra shroud in an instant, with 6 Magatama marks around his neck. Naruto's hair stood up like horns, and the seal on his stomach became visible, with several black lines flowing over his arms and legs and 1 swirl mark appearing on each of his arms. The chakra energy emitted by the Jinchuriki was out of this world. Everyone in the arena, including the Hokages, rose from their seats in surprise. Many people exclaimed, "The power of a perfect Jinchuriki. You have full access to the Kyuubi's power even without the key?" Jiraiya inquired, aware that he was now completely outclassed. The Sannin immediately clapped his hands, and 2 small figures appeared out of nowhere, leaping onto the man's shoulders. Sasuke Uchiha was impressed by the power wielded by his K-15 commander. Is this a Jinchuriki's power? I wish I had the power Naruto and Fu have to protect my clan from both outside and inside the village. But the Uchiha looked at Danzo Shimura with disdain and hatred. No. Given Naruto and Fu's problems, it truly isn't worth it. My Sharingan and AK-16 are more than enough to defend my clan. Wait, what the fuck? Hinoka, Hinata, why does Naruto show this power in front of everyone? There are special interested people here. Doesn't he have enough problems? Tayuya mentally yelled as he leaned over to Hinoka and Hinata and whispered. "I'm not sure," Hinoka replied, perplexed and concerned. Prior to the exam, Naruto stated that he would not use this power against Kakashi. Jiraiya's appearance is unexpected, but he isn't even supposed to enter the Kyuubi mode to fight the Sannin. It doesn't make sense. The Byakugan princess secretly activated her dojutsu and discovered that her fiancé copyrighty was in perfect health. The girl then cast a quick glance towards Danzo's seat, making sure he didn't notice them. Hinata took a second to say, "Nothing wrong with him." This confused the three girls even more. The chain user created a shadow clone and instructed the clone to seek assistance from ladies Hitomi and Makoto, while she went to Fu for a consultation with Chome. There's nothing wrong with Danzo. He's just sitting there watching, but why is he wearing a large arm guard on his right arm, larger than the Raikage's? Hinata paused for a moment before dismissing this question. She quickly turned to scan the arena for any anomalies on the field. "Hey, Neji," Tayuya said sweetly, taking a seat next to the gentle fist genius and holding his hand. The cheeks of the Hyuga were flushed. "I need you to help me out, and you can take me out to dinner tonight." As the girl's attention was drawn away from him, Danzo Shimura smiled briefly. The Konoha's darkness was aware that he was being watched. There were many Hyugas present, and he needed to be cautious. When Shisui displayed the power he used to defeat Itachi Uchiha in Wave Country, he quickly turned off Shisui's eye. Now that Koto Amatsukami had done its job, the Leaf Elder could only watch the fight between the perfect Jinchuriki and the Sage and plan his next move to obtain his weapons, the Kyuubi and the Nanabi. Back in the center of the arena, 4 chakra arms emerged from Naruto's body. "Let me show you something stronger than Rasengan," said the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The same jutsu he used to destroy Itachi's Susanoo was used to form 3 micro-tailed beast balls between 3 pairs of hands, chakra hands. Tailed beast ball, burst shots. The blonde hurled baseball-sized orbs formed by his real hands at Jiraiya with the speed of a baseball pitcher at over 300 meters per second. A pair of chakra hands quickly passed him the second ball, which he threw in the same direction before being handed the third ball. Jiraiya had just finished gathering natural energy with the Toad Elders, Fukasaku and Shima, when the first micro-tailed beast ball swooped down on them. Instead of dodging, the Toad Sennin quickly palmed his hands on the ground, deciding to test the power of the Bijudama. Summoning Rashomon. A massive menacing gate erupted to intercept the ball. Boom. When the first micro Bijudama impacted on the front teeth of the demon-looking gate, large spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the gate. Boom. The second micro Bijudama struck the same spot, blasting open a 3-meter radius hole. The Rashomon's demon face appeared to be punched toothless. The third ball flew through the gate defense and towards the Sannin, who quickly moved aside. Boom. As dust and debris rained on the backs of the Toad Sannin and the Toad Elders, they could feel a large explosion behind them. Jonin exams always end in 3 or 4 minutes, and it's already 0920. No hits have been made so far, but look at the damage on the field. Tsunade commented to her sensei, who nodded in agreement. In their minds, Naruto, whether in Kyuubi mode or not, was on the same level as Sannin. It was no problem promoting the blonde to full Jonin. Jiraiya turned around when he heard a demonic shout of Kyuubi mode, lariat, and saw his godson charging with his right arm open, aiming at his throat. The sage struck the Jinchuriki with a counterattack punch. Naruto shifted his head quickly to avoid the blow, but his face was distorted and impacted. He flew 30 meters backward before landing on his buttocks, perplexed. Senjutsu. Frog Kata, thought the Sandame. Finally, a direct hit, 15 minutes into the exam. Sage Art. Frog Song. Fukasaku and Shima released powerful sound waves at Naruto in unison. The noise gave the blonde a headache, and she cursed, "Fuck," and jumped backward to prepare a counterattack. Toad oil bullet. Jiraiya predicted Naruto's movement and shot an extremely sticky oil at him. The Sannin then unleashed his extremely long white hair and ensnared his godson after the jutsu took away the blonde's mobility. His white hair drew Naruto closer to himself. When his godson came within range, the Toad Sannin slapped an anti-Jinchuriki suppression seal on his brow. Seal. Jiraiya exclaimed as he noticed his godson's Kyuubi mode fading. "I won, your limbs are bound, and you can't remove the seal until your Kyuubi chakra is drained, but you've made a great impression here, and you're unquestionably qualified for the Jonin rank. It's time to end the game and return to the emergency meeting about the FNN incident." Naruto chuckled darkly, perplexing everyone, including Toad Sannin. "You've got to be kidding me. You think this little seal will give you a victory over a Jinchuriki? Tell you what, Kumo already knows you're a seal master and has prepared me and the other two Kumo Jinchurikis to counter this threat. Not to mention, I'm a higher class seal master by Uzumaki standards, while you're just low B class." Except for Team Naruto's Hinata, Hinoka, and Tayuya, the mention of Uzumaki Fuinjutsu levels stunned everyone. Jiraiya is only a low B class according to the Uzumaki Fuinjutsu standard. Many people were curious about the village's best Fuinjutsu expert. Naruto's chakra arm appeared and ripped off the suppression seal tag on his forehead, shocking everyone, especially Jiraiya. The chakra arm crumpled the tag into a tiny paper ball and tossed it at the perplexed Sannin. The Kyuubi mode was allegedly turned off. How did he manage it? Naruto activated his shield seals on his armor by turning off his Kyuubi mode. As a result, the white hair that wrapped around the blonde's body began to wither, and the toad oil was absorbed into the flashing crimson shield inscriptions on the black Uzumaki armor. Before grinning at the Sannin, the blonde landed on the ground and reactivated his Kyuubi mode. The fight is getting interesting. Are you ready for round 2, Jiraiya? Anytime. Jiraiya replied, taking a step to the front, ready for round 2. Behold, Naruto Namikaze. Look above, upon the halos and the heavily canopies. He announced, beginning his kabuki-style introduction. The great gallant toad sage Jiraiya will without a doubt. Gray now, yelled Naruto. A katana appeared from the earth directly beneath the Sannin and thrust towards his ass. Holy shit! Exclaimed Jiraiya as he saw the blade emerge from the ground towards his buttocks before leaping 100 meters into the air with all his strength. Naruto and his shadow clone Gray sighed in disappointment as the tip of the sword barely touched the Sannin's pants, and there was a drop of sweat on everyone's brow. Is the Yellow Flash's son a sadist? Maiming, flaying, castrating, and sodomizing his enemies? He makes Ibiki Morino look like a saint. Even the head of the torture and interrogation department, who was present in the arena, was perplexed. When Naruto saw Jiraiya in the air, he went into Kyuubi mode and made several hand seals before putting his palms on the ground, saying, "I'm going to rock you like a hurricane." Kyuubi wind release, Maelstrom ascent. He and Gray moved away quickly. A small twister formed on the ground. It was not even Category 1 at first, but as each second passed, it advanced to the next class. The twister became a Category 5 hurricane with a wind speed of 250 km per hour at the 6th second. Except for Jiraiya, who was blown upward and spun helplessly in the hurricane for the next 10 seconds, everyone in the arena quickly scattered and moved further away to avoid the destructive hurricane, including the Hokages and elders. Fukasaku and Shima's eyes were covered in spirals. I'm going to puke. Me too. I've got to do something. Jiraiya exclaimed. He took a scroll from his pocket and began writing a fuinjutsu to counter this attack. Gray completed the exam by making a tiger hand sign and opening his mouth to shoot a fire stream at the hurricane. "Stop it, Gray!" yelled Kurama. "Naruto has a plan, now listen." The shadow clone took a step back and followed the command. Naruto threw a kunai with a fuinjutsu tag at the hurricane, which instantly vanished, and then jumped towards Jiraiya, who was free-falling. 6 chakra arms emerged from the Jinchuriki's body. 4 of them grabbed the Sannin's limbs, while the other 2 grabbed the bodies of the 2 Toad Elders and yanked them off the Toad Sannin's shoulders. Yikes! What the hell? Jiraiya exclaimed, as Naruto sat on his shoulders and the blonde's crotch touched the super pervert's face. Shizune, Anko, Inner Sakura, and Ino, among other yaoi-obsessed kunoichis, laughed at the scene, and some of them suffered minor nosebleeds. Many people cringed as they witnessed Naruto viciously bashing Jiraiya's head several times. The blonde then scissor-crossed his legs, causing his thighs to tighten around Jiraiya's head, and yelled, "Hurricane Rana!" in a demonic tone. He flipped backward, and Jiraiya had no choice but to be dragged along with the powerful force towards the ground. Danzo stood motionless as Jiraiya collided with him and bounced several times like a ragtag doll. But the root leader was ecstatic that the Jinchuriki was more powerful than the most powerful Sannin. The elder was drooling inside and couldn't wait to take possession of his weapons. The Konoha's darkness raised his head to investigate the source of the demonic voice, Kyuubi wind release, drilling air bullets. Naruto was still upside down in the air. When a cluster of 5 tennis ball-sized orbs came straight at him, the root leader's left eye widened. Everyone was shocked, and all root members rushed towards their master, but they would never arrive in time. Oh my god! The elder cursed in thought and moved 30 meters away just in time. Kaboom! Danzo Shimura's eyes widened again as he turned around to see his original position. Everything, including large rocks, within a 10-meter radius of his original location was completely destroyed, as was the earth to a depth of 40 centimeters. Fu Yamanaka, Torun Aburame, Tanuki Shigaraki. Gray could easily identify the special Jonins and Jonins on Danzo's side by watching everyone's reaction to the assassination attempt, but to his surprise, Sai. Naruto landed on the ground and immediately made a deep bow towards the Konoha elder who had been nearly killed. "Sorry, Elder Danzo. Stray fire, stray fire." The blonde innocently apologized. "I was aiming for Jiraiya, but you were in the line of fire, and I still couldn't control my air landing after Hurricane Rana, so my apologies. You're not as crippled as you appeared. Fuck you, Danzo. Fucking you," was the blonde's true thought. Everyone, including Danzo and the other 2 elders, was looking at the yellow flash's son with suspicion. "You tried to kill Danzo in broad daylight in front of everyone?" was the general consensus at the time. "To demonstrate my sincere apologies, your next Nayote Mori is on me." Naruto grinned. As they imagined eating delicious sushi and sashimi off a beautiful woman's naked body, some male ninjas had blood leaking from their nostrils. Kurenai and a few kunoichis shook their heads, disgusted by Naruto's objectification of females. Naruto was amused that the elder appeared insulted. "It was a good fight, Godfather, and I shouldn't have gone overboard to shoot you. I didn't know you were KO'd by my Hurricane Rana. Would you like to join the Nayote Mori with me and Danzo?" My treat. He pulled Jiraiya up to his shoulder. Jiraiya, who had been battered, regained full strength. Sannin's face turned perverted, and his right hand thumbed up. Before turning around, Naruto nodded and smiled. "Hey, Lord Sandaime and Kakashi. Would you like to come too? The tab is on me. We 5 can have a very good time." The blonde smiled at Kakashi's thumbs up and eye smile, as well as the third Hokage's nervous nod under the slug Sannin's glare. "I know what's behind your Nayote Mori invitation, Aside from the insult, Tsunade palmed her face. You want to talk to Danzo about everything. The Uchiha massacre, your parents' scrolls and house, FNN, everything. But, boy, couldn't you use something better? How did I end up here, Nayote Mori? Good. Naruto made an ear-to-ear grin at Danzo, thinking, and next time I will whack you. Sirens sounded throughout the village, and everyone became alert. Many sensor-type ninjas detected panic within the village. Tsunade exclaimed as an Anbu from the Konoha Operations Center landed in front of her. You and everyone else here must report to the war chamber immediately. Operations Center Commander Iruka Amino has declared Crimson Contingency. Both the western and northern garrisons are under attack. Konoha Operations Center, 9:25, 5 minutes ago. Jonin Special Iruka Amino sat in the command chair, sipping his coffee and supervising the entire staff in front of him. Everything here was business as usual, including the garrisons in the west and north. He thought everything was fine. The academy was closed due to the upcoming Chunin exam final the following day. During the event, when many rich customers and VIPs would come to see the tournament and enjoy Konoha's hospitality, civilian background students were mostly required to assist with family businesses. While the special Jonin had hoped to attend Naruto Namikaze's Jonin exam, it was his turn to oversee the operations center. Fortunately, his girlfriend Anko Mitarashi was able to inform him of the outcome later. The academy's acting headmaster reflected on his recent graduates, particularly the majority of the K-15 members, including the Nanabi Jinchuriki, Fu. He had treated the teal-haired girl kindly and fairly at first, just like he had treated the other Kunoichi prospects, until her Jinchuriki identity was revealed. She was the container of a Kyuubi no Kitsune brethren who had murdered his parents many years before. He had begun to drift away from the girl. The cold treatment only lasted one day, when the snake mistress noticed his cold stare at Fu, her dango partner. Anko confronted him at his apartment that night and lectured him. Are you insane? I've also heard that Fu is the Nanabi's Jinchuriki, but first, this Biju didn't kill your parents, and second, she's just a container with a seal. For fuck's sake, you should know the difference between a scroll and a sealed kunai. You're a chunin and a ninja teacher. Iruka lowered his head in shame as a result of Anko's points, but she didn't stop. The Kyuubi is a monster who killed your parents, but there is a worse monster who wears human skin. Anko ripped her shirt off. Iruka blushed at first, but was taken aback when she noticed a seal on her left shoulder. It is the curse seal of heaven, created by Orochimaru, the son of bitch who experimented on human lives in his sick experiments. The seal is unremovable and has a 90% fatality rate. Even the Sandame, Lord Jiraiya, and Lady Tsunade were powerless to stop it. Like Fu, I'll have to live with it for the rest of my life. She began to break down. Iruka was embarrassed by himself and felt sorry for the woman in front of him, so he did everything he could to console Anko. Following that night, the academy teacher began to treat the Nanabi Jinchuriki with more warmth and kindness, and the relationship with the lovely snake mistress began. He had to thank Anko for the lecture, and he could never thank Fu enough for putting him on the good side of the Godem Hokage because of the girl and the Nanabi's high opinion of him. After the Kunoichi Genin's diet secret was revealed, the then Chunin was quickly promoted to Special Jonin and acting headmaster, and the headmaster and many academy staff were fired. The joy of double promotions paled in comparison to what another Jinchuriki bestowed upon his love freedom. Naruto Namikaze removed Anko's curse seal at the request of Kurenai, Yugao, Shizune, and Fu. Iruka would never forget his Anko's joyous tears and her relief that she was finally free. He could never thank Naruto and Fu enough for what they had given him and his love. Iruka popped the question to Anko with a ring a few days after the seal was removed, and her immediate reaction was to glomp the man tightly before saying, yes. They were congratulated by the third Hokage, Tsunade, Kakashi, Guy, Asuma, Kurenai, Shizune, Yugo and her boyfriend, and the K-15 members. The Dolphin Man and the Snake Mistress intended to marry following the Chunin exam finals. He was also overjoyed that his best friend Mizuki was going to marry Tsubaki, the center operator in front of him, after the Chunin exam finals. The Special Jonin couldn't wait for the best time of their lives. The Western Garrison's emergency hotline rang, startling everyone. This is Western Garrison Special Jonin Hana in Izuka. The Iwa Gravemaker has launched an attack on us. Iruka was taken aback, but he quickly regained his composure and began to ask for confirmation in a serious tone. Can you repeat that, Special Jonin? General Shingen Hattori IWA. He's arrived. With his entire Juggernaut force. Apply for immediate help. Everyone in the room became cold, pale, and trembled violently. Many Konoha ninjas were crippled or killed by the infamous Gravemaker and his Juggernauts. This is terrible. Iruka described herself as shaken. According to intelligence, there were over 500 Juggernauts loyal to the Gravemaker. A Konoha squad could be annihilated by an Iwa Juggernaut. This attack force was massive and powerful, despite the fact that the Leaf Village's western garrison was only 2,000 strong. When Naruto Namikaze returned the Iwa girls from Kumo captivity, everyone hoped that peace could be restored between Konoha and Iwa. But they were completely wrong. Things got worse when another hotline radio went off. This is Northern Garrison General Hayama Shirakumo, and we are facing 6,000 strong Kumo forces. Darui and Dodai, Kumo elite Jonins, were spotted. Shit. The Northern Garrison only has 3,000 ninjas. Recalled the Scarred Nose Special Jonin. Konoha was attacked on both fronts, which had not happened since the Third Ninja World War. It was due to the legendary Yellow Flash, who neutralized all fronts in the war with the Hiraishin, but he was no longer present. The entire operations chamber erupted in fear. Iruka rose from his commander's seat immediately, demonstrating his command. Everyone, calm down. He yelled. He would have to use his big head jutsu if the staff did not quickly regain their senses. Declare the Crimson Contingency and mobilize Kakashi and Asuma's battle groups. You know the routine. At first, everyone was taken aback by the activation of Crimson Contingency and the subsequent mobilization of 10,000 Leaf Ninjas for relief expeditions, but they quickly processed the situation and returned to their stations. Tsubaki, send an Anbu to find the Hokages and counselors. Iruka gave the order. Then prepare the war chamber. Hi. Said Kunoichi left her seat immediately to carry out the Special Jonin's order. Chunin Shimizu activated the village sirens and pressed the PA button. Crimson Contingency has been declared at Konoha Operations Center. Within 1 hour, all ninjas must report to your mobilization stations. The Crimson Contingency has been declared. 0940, Konoha Western Garrison, Kanabi Bridge, Fire Country, Flower Country border. The Kanabi Bridge was 200 meters long and well known in ninja history for two important battles that took place on it during the Third Shinobi World War. Konoha won the first Kanabi Bridge battle, halting Iwa's advance in Fire Country. Obito Uchiha and Mihiru Hattori were two well-known casualties. Although he was a student of the Yellow Flash, the former's death was considered insignificant by Konoha, but the latter's dealt a blow to Iwa and the Hattori clan. Shingen, Gravemaker, Hattori's only son and heir, was Mihiru. The second Kanabi Bridge battle was also won by Konoha. Iwa led a full-scale assault with over 1,000 ninjas to retake the bridge, but they were slaughtered by the Yellow Flash. This conflict compelled the Hidden Rock village to seek peace. Konoha Western Garrison forces of 2,000 ninjas had gathered 300 meters from the bridge. An earthquake had started 10 minutes before, had not stopped, and was growing stronger by the minute. Konoha General Kosuke, former Eternal Genin, Maruboshi, his Exo Hana Inuzuka, and over 400 Earth Affinity ninjas palmed their hands on the ground and yelled, "Doten, Great Defender Fortification Wall." Within 2 seconds, a battlement 800 meters wide and half a meter thick rose from the ground in the shape of a concave semicircle. Bridge Team. Scores of leaf ninjas rolled out their scrolls across the garrison's land, forming a barrier beneath them so the rock ninjas wouldn't burst up underneath them wherever they pleased, endangering the leaf ninjas' health and well-being. "Take your positions, crossbowmen." Kosuke gave the order. Chunins and qualified senior genins armed with AK-16 crossbows took up positions at their own battlement krenels and loaded their AK-16s with cartridge scrolls before pointing them outside. "Artillery squads," said the Leaf General next. 3 ninjas from each of the 24 artillery squads, each with a large scroll on their back, quickly arrived 100 meters behind the battlement and unlocked their scrolls. Each squad was met by 2 trebuchets and a ballista. Smaller scrolls were applied to the trebuchet slings and ballista flight grooves by the squad loaders. A simple verbal command, "Unseal," made their payloads ready. Then, on the trebuchets and ballistae, there appeared rocks and large arrows tagged with explosive seals. All 72 pieces of artillery were in place and ready to fire. Hana, as an Inuzuka, was always grateful for her enhanced senses of smell and hearing, but she was aware that they were a double-edged sword. Some genins had wet themselves, according to the Inuzuka Special Jonin. She couldn't blame them because she, too, was scared and nervous. A scout team sent an S-class emergency radio transmission to the garrison HQ 10 minutes ago. "This is Team 64, and we've spotted Shingen Hattori and his entire Juggernaut army charging towards Fire Country. Over 500. The radio transmission became staticky. "He noticed us." Everyone gets GE, as the transmission was cut off. The Inuzuka Special Jonin and the rest of the staff, including Ko Hyuga, heard an explosion, screams, and bones snapping. The third Kanabi Bridge battle was about to start. Hana secretly prayed to Kami that the garrison would survive. Kanabi, ironically, meant, Kami does not help. Shingen Hattori was the same age as Sandame Tsuchikage and Sandame Hokage, but he appeared much older and wrinkled. The last Hattori had cold hazel eyes, a chest-length beard, a completely bald head, and a long vertical scar on his right eye. His eyes were filled with rage and grief over the loss of his family and clansmen 14 years ago. He earned the nickname, Gravemaker, after personally killing many Senjus and Uzumakis during the Uzushio campaign, as well as many other ninjas during the Second and Third Wars. Shingen initially accepted the nickname gladly, but in the later Third War, he despised it because it seemed more appropriate that this moniker be hung on Minato Namikaze, who had made more graves, including one for Hattori's son Mihiru. The last Hattori would exact his revenge. He and his 500 Iwa ninjas were charging headlong towards the Konoha garrison. They were all dressed in Juggernaut rock armor. The titanium hard rock plates of the Doten armor covered the entire user's body. Plates were thicker in vital areas such as the head, heart, and spine. The Juggernaut armor had a disadvantage in terms of speed, as it weighed more than 40 kilograms. The failed ambush on the Leaf Kurama clan heiress, who had been rescued by a genin named Rock Lee opening his 5th gate, demonstrated this deficiency. This changed when the last Hattori took a few Uzumaki Fuinjutsu scrolls as war trophies during the fall of Uzushio. His Neo-Combine membership had provided him with assistance in unlocking the secrets on the scrolls from Fuinjutsu specialists within the Combine ranks, including the rogue Konoha Snake Sanin. To the last Hattori's delight, one of the Uzumaki seals proved most useful to Iwa juggernauts, having the armor's weight and improving agility. The wrecked Kanabi Bridge came into view. The Iwa general had anticipated this, as had Konoha, who had laid out a welcome mat for his army. Mines beneath the vanguard earth golems and rock clones blew up all of them. The rock ninjas immediately came to a halt. Jackhammers. Shingen gave the order. 10 Iwa ninjas wielding explosive release sealed their hands several times before palming them to the ground. Their chakra first traveled a meter underground before spreading across the minefield below. A split second later, the entire ground imploded, revealing new, safe ground. The Konoha forces opened fire a kilometer away. Artillery launched their explosive payloads, crossbowmen fired hundreds of kunai, and jonins fired long-range raiden jutsus. The Iwa army saw countless projectiles heading their way. They would be obliterated in seconds by the leaf bombardment. Incoming. Formation immediately. Hattori directed his troops. Rock ninjas and their general made several hand gestures and shouted in unison. Immortal tortoise shell wallcrawler Doden. Earth emerged from their mouths to join the earth that rose from the ground. The earths quickly combined to form a half-dome and steel hard wall 100 meters tall, 300 meters wide, and 2 meters thick. The first to hit the crawler wall were the leaf ballista arrows. The arrows were marked with earth suppression seals, which weakened the wall. The trebuchet rocks with explosive seals then blasted many portions of the rock wall apart, and debris fell harmlessly on the armored Iwa ninjas. Many parts of the wall crawler were blasted apart, but it quickly regenerated itself thanks to the ground's unlimited supply of earth. Because earth was Iwa's friend, the village became a major superpower. Now move forward. The Iwa general gave the order. Grenadier, begin retaliation immediately. The Konoha garrison, including Kosuke, were stunned to see the wall approaching at 20 kilometers per hour. When they were within range, dozens of Iwa ninjas emerged from behind the moving wall and hurled football-sized mayhem clay bombs at the leaf position. The leaf crossbowmen quickly dispatched several of them. When their mayhem bombs flew over the Konoha battlement, their deaths were not in vain. The Iwa force, which included over 50 leaf ninjas, destroyed several sections of the battlement. Two boom sounds came from the center of the leaf formation, and many crossbowmen turned around in a knee-jerk reaction to see that 2 artillery squads had been completely obliterated. Shingen quickly retreated to the moving wall after hurling his explosive rock spears. Panic spread throughout the Konoha force, and even Hana and Ko became concerned. However, General Kosuke, a veteran of the 3 Great Wars, remained calm. Everyone, take a stand. Concentrate your artillery on the foundation of your wall. If you destroy the roots, it will be completely destroyed. Kosuke let out a bark. The Iwa wall crawler had reached a distance of 400 meters from the destroyed bridge. If the wall reaches the bridge, Shingen will convert it into a makeshift bridge. A small flash caught Kosuke's attention, and he turned to see that the source was a stone spear thrown by his opponent. His careful examination quickly turned to horror. There was an Uzumaki beacon seal on it. Kosuke dashed forward to grab the spear and use all of his strength to return it to the Iwa army. He had no idea what this beacon seal was supposed to do, but it had to be bad. I'm hoping I'm not too late. No one noticed a flight of 3 sky dragons retrofitted as bombers, escorted by a flight of 4 buzzards, several kilometers above the battleground. They were hiding in the sea of clouds, waiting for something to happen. "Sir!" exclaimed a sky chunin who served as the sensor and navigator outside the leading dragon bomber.
The beacon is activated, but it is moving away.
The enemy is removing it, the sky commander correctly assumed. However, it is too late for them. Give me the original coordinates of the beacon. Sir, yes. The coordinates were provided by the chunin, and the sky commander issued an order to the rest of his squadron. The dragons and buzzards began to alter their flight paths. A few minutes later, bombardiers on all 3 dragons exclaimed with delight, "Mayhem away." XXXXXXXXX. Hana and her ninkins emerged from their caves. To her horror, there were body parts all over the place, and many people were screaming in pain or dying. When the Konoha ninjas detected and saw the unexpected bombs on top of them, they had little choice but to seek cover individually. The Konoha Central Formation was now a living hell. Medics! Hana yelled. The medic squads from the rear formation rushed to their severely injured comrades and carefully placed them on large rolled-out scrolls. The subject was sealed into the 72-hour stasis medevac fuinjutsu scroll when one was placed on a scroll and a medic issued a seal command. It was a groundbreaking medic spacetime fuinjutsu created by a certain Uzumaki Namikaze, much to the delight of the 5th Hokage, who had no doubt given him a bone-crushing hug. The Inuzuka Special Jonin noticed Ko coughing as he emerged from his cover. "Can you see how they drop the bombs from such a great height, Ko?" she inquired. Without saying anything, the Hyuga turned on his Byakugan and looked up at the sky. When Ko looked up at the sky, he opened his mouth in surprise. He was about to say something about what he saw when his head exploded. Shingen hovered among his bodyguards, armed with rock shields to protect him from the Leaf K-16 fire, using Doton, lightweight rock technique. The Iwa Gravemaker was wearing a scope over his right eye and wielding a second explosive spear in his right hand. He scanned the Konoha formation for any Hyuga who might discover his military secret and jeopardize the Neo Operation Combines and Vengeance. He threw his second explosive spear at a random leaf trebuchet after confirming that the Hyuga he killed was the only one in the field before retreating to the wall. Kosuke Maruboshi appeared in front of Hana, panting, as she sealed Ko Hyuga's headless body into a scroll. His right blue sleeve had turned a bright red. "Sir. Thank you Kami, the bombs missed you, but you're bleeding." Inuzuka expressed concern. "I have no time to bleed." Kosuke shrugged it off, and his breathing returned to normal. He looked at the badly damaged right and left flanks, which were still fighting. The Iwa army was only 200 meters from the bridge. "We also don't have much time left. I'm about to issue an evacuation order." "I understand what you're saying, Hana, but we've already lost this battle. We can only hope to live to fight another day. Within 15 hours, reinforcements will arrive. I'll leave you in charge of the evacuation, and you and everyone will meet the reinforcement." Hana's pupils dilated. "And how about you?" she inquired, fearful of the answer she already knew. Before responding to Inuzuka, Kosuke Maruboshi briefly closed his eyes and thought about Tobarama Senju, whom he looked up to as a father figure. "I, along with some volunteers, will serve as the rear guard." "No sir. That is not possible. You are wise and strong. Konoha requires you, and you should be the one to fight another day." The Inuzuka objected. Her ninkins agreed with her. Kosuke smiled as he placed his hands on Hana's shoulders. "Konoha needs you and the younger generation the most. I'm old, and you're young, and that's what the Nidaime and Daimata and many other leaf ninjas died fighting for. You may not understand right now, but you will one day." The Jonin's grin had faded. He became solemn, steel and fire in his eyes. "This is my direct order, Special Jonin Hana Inuzuka. Evacuate all personnel immediately, or I will court-martial you." Hana Inuzuka cried as she said goodbye to Kosuke 15 minutes ago. It was yet another of Maruboshi's many regrets. First and foremost, he was responsible for the deaths of his teammates. Second, he was unable to protect Tobarama Senju, who served as a father figure to him. Third, during the Kyuubi's attack 13 years ago, he was unable to protect his godson and the grandson of the second Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Only Hiruzen and the elders were aware of the fact that Kosuke Maruboshi was the Yellow Flash's godfather, having been appointed by Minato's mother, Tobarama's daughter. Finally, he was unable to protect his godson's son, Naruto Namikaze, the last descendant of Tobirama, from the Kumo kidnapping. He had privately rejoiced 2 months ago when the boy returned home safe. He even let the majority of the garrison drink sake wine to celebrate the boy's return. He was disappointed that he wouldn't be able to see the boy one more time, but at least the majority of Konoha forces had moved a safe distance away from here. The 30 Konoha rear guards who remained were all over 50 years old and had volunteered to stay to buy time for their younger comrades. Some were manning the last 5 trebuchets and ballistae, while the rest fired AK-16s and lightning jutsus at the Iwa Juggernaut army to slow them down. The adversary was now on the other side of the bridge. When the Iwa wall crawler was converted into a makeshift bridge and a second rock wall was raised to cover the Iwa ninjas, Kosuke's prediction proved correct. The rock juggernauts began to cross the bridge, and a shout of "Doden, devouring earth," was heard. When the Konoha rear guards looked up, they saw the Gravemaker in the air again. Rocks and stones gathered on Hattori's hands and formed several massive sets of jaws, which he then directed at the leaf position. After 10 minutes, that powerful earth jutsu had killed the majority of the leaf rear guards. Kosuke was one of the few survivors, but that didn't mean he was unharmed. His lungs had been punctured by his broken ribs, and he wouldn't live long. The former Konoha Eternal Genin noticed that the rogue Iwa army had crossed the bridge and left their second wall crawler. "Die, you stoners." A trio of leaf ninjas ambushed and killed 3 juggernauts with Raiden jutsus and AK-16 crossbows before being swarmed by a swarm of Iwa ninjas. Hearing their screams and seeing them impaled by countless rock blades and kunai hurt the leaf general. When Kosuke saw Shingen safely emerge from the wall, he gave orders to his ninjas. This last Hattori posed the greatest danger to Naruto Namikaze. The leaf ninja took out his last 4 kunai quietly and tagged them both with explosive seals. Thunderclap arrow, Raiden. Kosuke fired the lighting projectile and his kunai at the Gravemaker, hoping to put an end to his threat for good. Several juggernauts gathered around their commander and raised their rock shields. After the blasts, all of the shields crumbled and disintegrated, and 2 juggernauts fell, but the Gravemaker remained unharmed. Kosuke managed to avoid a juggernaut punch to the head, but he couldn't avoid the second attack, which crushed everything on his right side, including his lung, liver, and kidney. He flew backwards until he collided with trebuchet wreckage. "You're still alive, Kosuke Miruboshi. I can't believe you're still attacking me." The Iwa general approached Kosuke slowly after receiving confirmation from his sensor ninjas that he was the only survivor left. Shingen's right armored wrist sprouted a steel hard rock blade, and his bodyguards and commanders trailed him. Such valiant nonsense. The Gravemaker spoke coldly as he thrust his blade into Kosuke Miruboshi's heart. The leaf ninja screamed in agony, and blood poured from his mouth. "Is it?" Kosuke spoke softly. His eyes were getting heavy. He was on the verge of death. The old Konoha ninja was disappointed that he couldn't meet Naruto, but he could now proudly meet his teammates, Tobirama, and Minato's parents. Kosuke Miruboshi grinned. He'd hidden a dozen trebuchet explosive tags he'd gathered from the wreckage beneath his flak jacket. He said 5 words quietly before directing all of his remaining chakra to the explosive tags. "Farewell and best of luck, Naruto."
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.